Here is an election telecast. The policy speech for the Liberal Party of Australia is given by the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable William McMahon.
Ladies and gentlemen, to present his policy speech for the forthcoming federal election, here is the Right Honourable William McMahon, Prime Minister of Australia.
Good evening. Tonight, as Prime Minister and leader of the Liberal Party, I want to talk to you about the issues on which we will fight this election. Basically, it is an election about policies. Policies that will directly affect you and your families for many, many years to come. And they will be years of changing values and expanding opportunities, especially for the young. It is also an election about two fundamentally different ways of governing. The Liberal way, which seeks to encourage the freedom, the talents and the dignity of the individual in a society in which the government is the servant, not the master. The other is the Labour philosophy of socialism and the all-powerful state, in a society in which the government is the master, not the servant. A government which is dominated by the left wing and the powerful militant trade unions. Never forget this. This election is also a contest between two teams. Judging them man for man, and collectively my team is younger, better qualified and more experienced than the Labour alternative. Half my cabinet is 45 or under. The opposition shadow cabinet is only one man of that age. On these three tests, policies, philosophy and the team, the Liberal and country parties are worthy of your confidence and support. We have the ability to manage your affairs responsibly and well, both in calm and in crisis. Let me now speak about the Australia of today. It is a country of the young. Every second Australian is under 29. This means that most of the problems of our country are those of growth. The growing up of so many young Australians, better educated, more independently minded, national in outlook and determined to play a more independent role in world affairs. Soon after I took office as Prime Minister in March 1971, we reviewed and transformed our policies to match the aspirations of Australians in the 1970s. They were well-considered and well-planned changes, and are part of our determination to build the future on the solid foundations of the past. In defence and foreign policies, we have responded to the great changes in the world, especially in Asia and the Pacific. 3 months ago, we brought in a budget with big reductions in personal income tax and very significant social service measures. Relations between the Commonwealth and the states have seldom been better. Education programming has been considerably improved. New laws have been passed against foreign takeovers. The arbitration system has been overhauled. We have announced a program for urban and regional development which will improve Australian standards of life. This has been done in the last 20 months, and it is only the beginning. We promise you that the return of this government will guarantee further constructive and, above all, responsible changes, not for the few, but for the benefit of all. Basic to success is the state of the economy. As a direct result of government measures over the past year, the economy is obviously strengthening. Demand is growing strongly, and in the crucial area of consumer spending, trade is buoyant. In fact, retail sales have grown from 8% last year to 12% now. The effects of this strengthening demand have already made their impact in other areas. Production is increasing, unemployment is down, and business confidence is high. Meanwhile, we are achieving success in the battle against inflation. The rise in consumer prices is down from an annual rate of around 7% to 5%. In all these, we are achieving our economic objectives. But responsibility in managing the economy is basic. My government is pledged to continue the responsible, sound policies of economic management which we have so successfully followed in the past. Now I come to some policy decisions of special importance to you all. First, there is one matter directly related to what I have just said. Rising money incomes bring with them steeply rising income taxation. As our record demonstrates, we have no intention of letting personal income taxation become a brake on incentive. Since the last election, the government has cut personal income tax heavily, by an average of nearly 10% in the 1970-71 budget, and by an average of 10% in the last budget. We completely restructured the tax scale. Within the limits of economic responsibility, we will aim to restructure the income tax scale periodically to ensure that it will not become a burden on income earners. I turn now to other major decisions. Australians are a home-loving people, but there are many young married people who find it difficult to finance a home of their own. We intend to help them. This is what we will do. We will guarantee for the first time loans to buy a block of land on which the owner intends to build his home. This will be done through the Housing Loans Insurance Corporation. We will also arrange for the corporation to be able to insure second mortgages under certain conditions. Furthermore, we propose to help young married persons acquiring their first home to meet the repayments of their loans. We will do this by paying them half the annual interest up to a limit of $250 in the first year of the loan. Thereafter, we will continue to help at a rate reducing by $25 a year. The conditions are that they must be 35 years or under, paying off their first home and living in it. In addition, those who began doing this on or after the 1st of January 1970 will be eligible. In effect, we are backdating the opportunities some 3 years, but without backdating payments. Widowed and divorced persons with children will be eligible on the same scale. We will also raise to $10,000 the maximum housing loan by the Commonwealth Savings Bank at its most favourable interest rate. The same increased limit will apply to war service home loans as soon as the Parliament passes the necessary legislation. We will encourage the saving banks to make more high-ratio insured housing loans up to 90% or more of the value of the homes, costing up to $16,000. The problems relating to sewerage and housing and developing generally will be discussed with the states at the first Loan Council meeting next year. Turning to education, which touches the lives of all of us in a dozen different ways. We need better schools, more teachers and more facilities. In the current financial year, the Commonwealth is providing directly and indirectly more than half of the $1,900 million being spent on education in Australia. The initiatives we have taken during the last 12 months have broadened and developed the Commonwealth's involvement in the education of your children. There are several new measures we now plan to introduce in particular areas of education. We will provide $25 million a year over the next 3 financial years for capital and recurrent expenditure to assist the states in their efforts to expand preschool education. and we will expand our present commitment to technical education and continue it into the future, allocating not less than $20 million a year. We will also double the number of technical scholarships to 5,000 a year from the beginning of 1974, with emphasis on scholarships for those students from low-income families. We will give an education allowance of $400 a year free of means test for children in isolated areas who must live away from home in order to attend school or who have to be taught at home. We will assist the physically and mentally handicapped and underprivileged school-age children at a cost in the first year of $10 million. Further, we will finance libraries for primary schools at a rate of $10 million a year, on the same basis of cooperation with the states as with libraries for secondary schools. For the business community, we will establish a national school for postgraduate management education at the University of New South Wales. We reject outright Labor's plan to centralise control of every Australian school in a bureaucratic school commission in Canberra. Under Labor's scheme, the dual system of education would be weakened to the point of destruction. Parents would lose the right of choice, and education authorities would be forced to discriminate between schools, no matter what the consequences. Australians will realise this is a socialist desire to control individual schools by giving or withholding finance. We reject Labor's so-called needs test on independent schools. It clearly shows the intention of powerful sections of the Labor Party to abolish state aid altogether. Surely those bad old days are dead. In health, we consider that everyone in a modern society is entitled to have the best health care that can be provided. They must be free to choose their own doctor, their own insurance fund, and their own hospital. The fear that you will not be able to pay your medical bills must be removed. We have now decided on several new health initiatives. A free nationwide dental service for school children, beginning with those under 6 years of age, will be established in cooperation with the states. We hope to start this scheme next year. When it is fully developed over a period of years, it will provide for all school children up to the age of 15. The Commonwealth will pay for in-school and mobile clinics plus 3/4 of running costs. Next, we will help the states dollar for dollar for community health services for drug dependence, alcoholism and mental illness. The government will also renew capital assistance of $1 for every $2 spent by the states on mental health institutions when the present programs end in June 1973. And we will provide greater assistance to the low-income families to pay for their health insurance. For those with an income under $57.50 a week, the government will pay the premiums in full. We will also lift the eligibility limit by $4 a week for each member of the family in excess of 2. And we will pay a 2-for-1 subsidy to the states for voluntary and charitable organisations providing physiotherapy services. A subsidy for home nursing physiotherapy services will be paid dollar for dollar with the states. We will also double the $2 for $1 grants to the states for paramedical services and extend them to a greater number of groups. And we will double to $3 a day the handicapped children's benefit. In the social welfare field, as you know, we have decided to abolish the means test for people over 65 within 3 years. This will help our elderly citizens. We have also decided that aged, invalid and widows' pensions and war widows' pensions will in future be increased in line with increases in the Consumer Price Index. The adjustments will be automatic every half year and will be in addition to budget reviews of the base pension rate. Until now, I have talked to you mainly about policies relating to your social welfare. I now turn to a different subject on which the future development and quality of life in Australia depends. Within recent weeks, the Commonwealth has passed legislation under which we will join with the states in a cooperative effort to enrich life in urban and regional areas. The Commonwealth will promote the development of sub-metropolitan centres around major cities and regional growth centres to relieve the pressure on existing cities. This is an historic event in Commonwealth-state relations. It represents perhaps the most important single development in Australia's social and economic life within the past 2 decades. We have already established the National Urban and Regional Development Authority. Commonwealth spending in the first 5 years is expected to rise to the rate of about $80 million a year and will cover land acquisition, all essential services and building construction. As a matter of urgency, $5 million has been made available to the authority this financial year so that it can rapidly develop plans in cooperation with the states. There is a related subject, the improvement of our urban transport systems and railways is basic to urban and regional development and to easing traffic congestion in our major cities. The Commonwealth is already spending through the states $1,250 million over 5 years on roads throughout Australia. Our assistance to the states for these programs will be continued when the present agreement ends in 1974 and will include national highways linking all capital cities. We have decided that we will make grants up to $330 million to the states over a 6-year period to assist them in correcting the deficiencies and for making improvements in existing public transport services. Assistance will be concentrated on modernising existing bus, tram and rail services and on new routes including undergrounds. We will also provide a further sum in loans and grants of $95 million over 3 years to improve interstate and intrastate railways on which our primary producers and manufacturers depend so heavily. And we will complete the linking throughout Australia of all state capitals and outer springs with a standard gauge railway system. These programs will of course be carried out in consultation with the states. As a new incentive to industry and to tourism, we now propose to allow a taxation deduction for depreciation of new income-producing buildings. The deduction will apply to expenditure incurred after today on new buildings and on alterations and additions to existing buildings. We propose to allow an annual statutory allowance of 2% based on a prescribed term of years for depreciating the original cost of the building. The government also proposes to legislate to extend the functions of the Commonwealth Development Bank to provide finance for the tourist industry in appropriate cases. The Deputy Prime Minister and leader of the Country Party will tell you next Monday more about the progress and new initiatives in trade, rural and secondary industries. We will establish a National Energy Advisory Council to advise the government on the development and management of our energy resources, including the marketing of energy minerals, both within Australia and overseas. At present, we are financing a substantial water resources program with the states. It will be extended for a further 5 years from now, with a total contribution of funds of up to $100 million. I now want to speak to you about employment. Full employment is a cardinal principle of Liberal policy. Those Jeremiahs who have been playing politics with unemployment in recent months have been confounded by the facts. They have been wrong, badly wrong in their guesses. The latest figures show that 82,400 persons, or less than 1.5% of the workforce, of over 5.5 million are registered for employment. That is vastly different from the forecast by Mr. Whitlam and Mr. Hawke. And the figures would have been better but for industrial disputes and strikes. The seasonally adjusted rate has also turned down decisively. We have demonstrated beyond doubt that our policy of full employment can be made successful. And we can assure you that because of the strong growth of the economy, all Australians, including young people completing their education this year, can look forward with confidence to expanding employment prospects in the year ahead. The development of a nation depends very much on its people and their skills. Our new Australians have made a really worthwhile contribution to our national development with their technical skills, their vitality and their culture. Immigration continues to be of great national importance. I reaffirm without change my government's immigration policy. It is to ensure that we have one Australian society, a homogeneous and integrated society, not a community with enclaves of people who cannot be integrated. We are committed to the policy of attracting new settlers from traditional sources and to control of the migrant intake by the government. It will remain a selective policy based on the skills of the migrants and their ability to integrate. It is flexible and at all times will be adjusted to ensure full employment. Now Labor wants to abandon every important element of this policy. It would base its policy solely on the sponsorship of relatives by migrants already settled here. There would therefore be no regard for skills and no real government control. This must not be allowed to happen. We have also decided to make two other policy changes which I am sure will be of interest. In the changing 70s, there is a special need to identify, in positive terms, the role of women in our society. So we have decided to hold a Royal Commission into improving the status of women in Australia. At the beginning of this speech, I referred to the predominantly youthful community we have in Australia today. There have been, as you know, moves for a reduction in the voting age to include 18-year-olds. Some states have already decided to allow this. Others are awaiting an indication of the government's intention. In our view, the age at which the franchise shall be exercised should be the same throughout Australia. Therefore, we intend to consult with the states after the elections concerning the introduction of the franchise for 18-year-olds. Let me now explain some of the very real differences between the policies of the government and those of the Labor Party. First, defence and foreign affairs, which are a primary responsibility of government. We live in a region of turbulence and change. This makes it imperative that we should have effective and mobile defence forces to defend ourselves, and that we should have reliable allies. For these reasons, we must strengthen our close links with the United States, Great Britain and New Zealand. Labor's attitude to foreign policy and defence is different. Labor would draw the teeth of the ANZUS Treaty as a defence pact, abandon SEATO, would draw from Malaysia and Singapore, and would reduce the army dangerously below strength by the abolition of national service. We will honour all those treaties and arrangements. Under the Liberal and Country Party policy, Australian defence capability is designed to protect our interests wherever they might be. Our strength is not limited to continental defence. Labor would turn Australia into a friendless and isolated country and leave the seas and islands around us defenceless. Labor would take risks that are unnecessary and entirely unacceptable to us. During the past year, I have been to the United States and Great Britain, to Indonesia, Singapore and Malaysia, and have had frank and friendly talks with the leaders of those countries. They value our goodwill and friendship. They trust us. My Minister for Foreign Affairs has recently visited India and Japan. Our relations with those countries, too, is on a sound basis. We will not put any of these relationships at risk. In dealing with Soviet Russia and the People's Republic of China, ideological differences have not been and will not be allowed to deter us from seeking to develop in every sensible and practical way those areas where common interests exist. But we will proceed at all times with care and prudence, bearing in mind that Australia's long-term interests are paramount. We believe our policies and attitudes are understood and respected by both these countries. Finally, I want to speak to you about respect for law and the public interest. You must think very seriously about this. We have all suffered because of industrial upheavals for purely political motives, without one word of protest from the Labor Party. Labor has supported the draft dodgers and has incited young soldiers to disobey orders. They have nominated one draft dodger as a candidate at these elections. These incitements to break the law are essentially incitements to the logical next step, physical violence. The violence on the building construction sites, intimidation at union meetings, the very violence left-wing and communist-inspired against which the government has fought for so long. The Liberal Party stands absolutely for civil liberties, for individual freedom and for the right to dissent, providing it is within the law. Unhappily, contempt for the law has emerged in industrial relationships too. Millions of man-hours and millions of dollars have been lost by decent unionists in Australia without reason. Strong government is needed to control these strikes in defiance of the law. My government has acted decisively to reduce the incidence of strikes and lawlessness and is steadily being successful. Labor, controlled by the left-wing unions, would be totally incapable of doing so. It is pledged to abolish sanctions in industrial agreements. We believe that sanctions are essential to the success of the conciliation and arbitration system, and we have strengthened this power in the recent changes we made to the Act. I have said this election is a conflict between policies, philosophies and teams. I emphasise that the Liberal Party stands for respect for constitutional government and decentralisation of power, a balance between federal, state and local governments. Labor seeks absolute power with no checks or balances. It wants to abolish the Senate and dismantle the whole of the existing state structure, including local government. In Parliament, the Liberal Party has full freedom in policy and decision-making. The Labor Party is directed by its outside non-elected machine, dominated by the left-wing unions. The Liberal Party's national goals are clear and uncomplicated. We seek one Australian society, free, secure and progressive, within a federation of the states. As we see it, the prospects for this country are unlimited, but the pace and direction of growth and progress are in our own hands. We have the power to build Australia into an even greater nation and a greater power for good. A vigorous and purposeful nation with an authentic Australian character. It is for you to choose which kind of government you want. On the facts I have presented to you, and in the interest of the nation, I am confident you will vote for the Liberal Country Party coalition on the 2nd of December. Good evening.
That was the policy speech of the Liberal Party of Australia, given by the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable William McMahon. Mr McMahon was the author of the speech, and his address is Parliament House, Canberra.